In this session, we will talk about how to master AI to become an irreplaceable creator and dominate your industry. And we're going to show you a ton of examples and breakdowns, maybe even show the screen a little bit here to kind of showcase how this is done. And I have an Australian-based entrepreneur and brand identity designer, Jeremy Mura here. Actually, I just found him through YouTube and Instagram. He was creating some really, really cool content. And I was checking out his website, and then I brought him on here for this session to talk more about how to leverage AI as a creator, because that's what he's doing. He's using it basically for everything in his business to come up with ideas, to the YouTube titles, everything in between, right? So we're gonna get into some of this here in this session. So warm welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. And well, it's good to be here. And I'm always excited to chat about creativity and AI.
Yeah, I mean AI is everywhere right now, but how did you get your start? Because you've done, brand identity and kind of as a designer for a while,
Yep.
but how does AI play a role in what you do?
Yeah, so for me, being a designer, but also a content creator, I've been creating content since like 2015, doing Instagram, doing YouTube, creating videos. I have over 600 videos on YouTube and over 1,400 posts on Instagram. So I've been in this game a while. And basically, when AI came on the scene, it just changed the game because it not only it allows me to work as a one-man creative agency, but it also allows me to speed up my workflow. It allows everything to be more productive, and it just allows me to save, time because, we all know writing content, coming up with ideas, researching, looking at what's happening what's trending, what's happening in the market. It takes time. So when AI came through, I just started using it, and I used it straight away because I'm a big believer in being adaptable, right? So people think, I'm going to try and do the same things in my business. It worked last year. It worked the year before. Maybe this year I'll keep doing it and it's going to work. But in reality, markets change, technology evolves and shifts. So we need to be able to move with technology and take advantage of it in this day and age.
Yeah, and how would you say if someone is getting started with AI, how can you actually go from a beginner to a more pro and start to master it a little bit more? Because there's so many tools out there, right? So it's important to kind of choose the, I guess, right one to get started with. So what would you recommend?
I recommend finding the best tools and sticking with them for a while. So personally for me, I stick with ChatGPT 4. I have a subscription with them. I also have a subscription with Midjourney. And those are my main two apps I use. I also use Adobe Firefly as well. That's part of my Adobe subscription. So that's great for art. And I also have Notion as well. And that comes with AI, but I'm not currently paying for that because ChatGPT and Midjourney does everything I need. And so what I recommend is using those two and mastering those two, or find a tool. Maybe if you're in a third world country, you need something a bit more affordable for where you're at. Maybe your business is still growing. Just find other tools, maybe some free ones, and get really good with that because remember, there will always be new tools popping up. So try and stick with one tool, learn the ins and outs of it, figure out every feature and use it to the maximum you can. So that's just my thoughts. But yeah, that's what I'm using at the moment, and it's working well.
Absolutely. I mean, ChatGPT Plus is like $20 a month. I think Midjourney starts around there. I mean, goes up depending on how many images you create, right? But
Yeah.
I mean that is quite affordable. You should be able to swing that. If you're in business or get like a part-time job or something like that to afford it. And then, but let's get into a little bit how you leverage it, because you're, as you said, you're a designer and you're a content creator. So more in your content creator business, how do you leverage this? Maybe you can also show some examples how you would use that too, because I know you're creating a lot on YouTube, you're doing on Instagram. So how would you actually use that in your day-to-day?
Yeah, so for me, if I'm working on a YouTube video, first I'll start off with copywriting. So I will, come up just with whatever idea that's come to my mind, or maybe I had an idea on while I was driving or went to the shops or whatever. I'll try and write an idea. Usually I think in headlines, and after I've just wrote down a few ideas, I tend to go start looking on YouTube, looking at other creators in my space, like what are they doing, who's pulling in the views, what's trending right now on using Google Trends. Sometimes you can use vidIQ as well, which has like a AI checker which checks like what's trending, what keywords are working. And so sometimes I use that. And then so once I sort of take some screenshots. I'll take screenshots of thumbnails and titles on a certain idea I have. Maybe it might be like 100 techniques to use in Photoshop, you know. And I got that idea from a different channel. It doesn't have to be within my niche, but I tend to look outside my niche, like at other like people that talk about business. Or there's one guy that talks about he's a chef, right? And his name is Joshua, and he like does all these. He's a funny guy, and he does all these like cooking tutorials and stuff. So I'm trying to think bigger, and so I'll take screenshots, chuck it into Notion, and then what I'll start to do is copy and paste some of those titles, bring it into ChatGPT, which I can show you guys after. And what I do is tell ChatGPT, start coming up with variations. What are some other ideas? You know, create descriptions, you know, and I start to feed it some ideas based on my audience, based on my audience's pain points, and try and weave it into my niche, which is branding design. So that's typically what I do.
Yeah, but that's really cool, because that's exactly, whether you use AI or not, actually that's a good process, because I do the same, like when it comes to coming up with ideas and stuff. You can look what other people are doing. There's really no new ideas out there. Everything is circling around, and people, you know, come up with different variations of an idea, and you can just do it better. Let's say you see a video on a specific topic, you can do maybe a longer video or a little bit more in-depth video, or cover an angle for a specific group of people. You can like change it up a little bit, and that's typically what people do on social media or YouTube platforms like that. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I do the same. So
Awesome.
let's showcase a little bit how this is done in maybe ChatGPT. You can kind of showcase how what your process is like.
Yeah, sure, man. I can share my screen, and then we can do some examples. So here's my Notion. I've got like a content board. I've got like YouTube videos here, got some ideas. Instagram as well. So I've got, you know, planned content in here, as you can see. Now I'll go to one of the examples I had. Was it, let's see, a recent one I've done. So you can see here, this one was like my 20K workspace tour, right?
I just saw that. I was watching this like the other day, actually. It was
really
cool.
Oh, awesome.
I love workspace videos, by the way.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
It's so popular. Even me, I'm always like trying to upgrade, trying to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay, cool. So I'll just go to YouTube real quick as well. And you can see I'll go on YouTube and look at other creators, and then you can see I've got links here. So I'll usually get some ideas. So you can see I'll go to some other YouTubers. So this random guy, he's got like 8,000 subs, building a dream workspace, 23 makeover, cool. I also love to read comments as well, see what people are responding to. And obviously, like, you need to learn storytelling and stuff when it comes to like YouTube and stuff, but I'm just focusing on the thumbnail and the title. There's also this one as well. I saw like building a new game dream setup, and I'll, you know, look for his video, go to his channel, you know, check out some of the thumbnails. Okay, like what's pulling in the most views, what's like working. And so typically I'll just like, you know, screenshot something like this, and then drop it into here, just copy and paste it real quick.
So
and then
Notion is like your project management kind of, right?
Basically, yeah, everything is within my project manager. So my design HQ, you can see I've got my weekly to-dos, my client portals, knowledge base, everything's like set up for me. And so it took me some time to do that. I actually have a template that you can get my website, but yeah, I love it. It's just great for just putting everything in one space.
Awesome. Cool.
So yeah, so we got an example here of thumbnail. I've got a script here, which basically I will get ChatGPT to set it up. So for example, I'll just type in.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So you script your videos usually like word for word, or how do you? Some people, they have bullet points. Do you do a word for word script?
So for me, I usually do bullet points. I don't use a teleprompter at all. It just doesn't flow naturally. So for me, I'll usually I always try and focus on the hook myself. I rewrite the hook. So the first like few lines, the first like 20, 30 seconds. So I'll write that. And then everything else, like I might just use ChatGPT to fill in some of the gaps. But most of the time I try and just keep it simple, dot points. But for this specific video, it was more like I had to write every specific element on my desk, right?
Got it. Okay, cool.
So then we'll go to ChatGPT, right? So I can go to new chat, and I can put on, you can see you can put, and then what I can do is I can say, I'll go to Notion, and I'll just make a new tab real quick. Go to my design HQ, and then ChatGPT prompts. And so what I can do is frame the conversation. So you always want to frame the conversation with ChatGPT. So you can see I've already got something here. I can just copy and paste it. So I can say, act like you're a content creator, search, which is basically me, to get an idea of who you should be like. Tone of voice is raw, positive, persuasive, and practical. My audience is, logo and brand designers, or if it's content creators. Then I can say some of their core pain points are lack of clients, low income, lack of creativity, imposter syndrome, right? Okay. And then I could say, have this in mind when thinking of titles. Okay. I can also say lack of, the space or tech gear. Okay. And then don't respond yet. And then I'll paste in, go back to Notion, and I'll just go back to this title here. So we start off with the headline, and then I can say, I have a title. Now, based on the information I gave you, come up with 5 variations. So I'm being very specific. So we frame the conversation, then we be specific and tell exactly what we want. So I'll say, hey, let's now, based on the information I gave you, come up with 5 variations of this title. Keep it less than 6 words. Use brevity. And then basically, I'll just keep it simple. Is this making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do a little bit similar when I play around and try to come up with titles or blog posts, whatever it is, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah. Awesome. So then you can see here, I've got 5 different titles that now I can use, I can manipulate, I can shift. So it's like, okay, 20K designer test tour, 20K creativity desk setup, branding desk reveal. That's pretty cool. 2023, 20K desk showcase. So we're getting lots of ideas. And then what I'll do, maybe I love number 3. So I'm like, okay, based on number 3, give me more variations. Use uncommon words. So it's basically learning how to refine and iterate. As in everything, you always got to experiment. And so your first response is not going to be the best answer, right? So we always got to put in the effort to refine, iterate, get some ideas, and then we don't have to fully rely on ChatGPT or whatever AI tool. We can use our brain as well, because remember, your audience best, so you always want to appeal to them and use the right words.
Yeah.
Cool. Identity desk display, that's pretty cool. 20K signature setup reveal, design domain reveal, cool. And then so basically, I'll probably keep iterating and iterating, but you get the point. And then I'll go into Notion, and then I'll type in headlines, paste this, right? And so now I've got potential headlines, and then maybe, I'll just highlight, maybe I want to focus more on this one, and then I might tweak it a little bit. And, maybe I get another idea. I'm like, okay, identity designer desk reveal 2023. So that might be a variation, right? So this is typically how I use ChatGPT for headlines, research. I can also create copywriting as well. So when I'm coming up with a brand. So for example, I did another recent video, and I was talking about 10 lessons I learned as a designer, right? And that was a YouTube video. So you can see I got it to create some titles, right? 10-year design journey lessons that blew my mind. 10 years, 10 game-changing design insights. So already we've got some better titles than what I would have probably came up with, right? And then so we go down, and then I can you give me an example of a brand? So this was, and then, this is all different stuff I put here. And so, for example, here, this is unrelated to that first topic, but when I'm coming up with ideas for an Instagram post as well. So I have an idea, 7 pillars of brand design. And then I tell it, hey, give me a draft on the 7 pillars of brand design. And it gives me just stuff like this. And then I'll go in and tweak it. So if I go back to Notion, um, where is it? 7 pillars of brand design. You can see here, and then I'll adjust some of the text, and then I'll put some hashtags. I've got like hashtags saved here. Just copy and paste, and then I'll put it here. And then if I feel like, it doesn't sound like me, I always just tweak it. And I always try and use power words and emotional words to try and bring people in to read it as well.
Yeah, it's so important to do that, because otherwise you're just gonna sound like everyone else, right? You know your audience best, and you know kind of how you speak to them. So that's obviously important. But going back to kind of, I mean, you came up with some titles and all this, but how would you write? I mean, since you're writing a script or more bullet points, do you do that with ChatGPT as well? Can you showcase kind of that process?
Sure. So for example, that video that I was just talking about, 10 years of design, my top lessons. So because a lot of the stuff I teach is usually based on experience and evidence and things I've learned. Even Alex Hormozy talks about, like, don't teach on things you don't know. Teach on things that you do know and you've done, right? So for example, have experience in design, creating content, etc. So I'll just start off by writing like lesson 1, typography is the most important skill. And so lesson, etc., etc. And so for example, I'll sit down and write. I'll probably take up to an hour just writing like a script, and then the next day I'll refine it, etc. So for example, let's add another point. How to content attracts clients.
Do you do this usually yourself, or do you ask ChatGPT first, kind of to flesh out something based on your idea or topic?
To be honest, it's not every single time. Sometimes I know what I want to talk about because I've done it before, like so many times. So I'm already aware and conscious of the headlines.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes I'll just go straight.
Yeah, what's Hormozy talks about, you teach based on experience, then it's probably quite easy for you to just flesh it out. But like if you wanted to maybe refine something, AI can just give you some more ideas, or like, I use it a lot for outlines for different things, but it doesn't mean I use everything, right? I customize quite a lot based on my experience. I mean, and also you can put in some custom instruction if you use ChatGPT Plus, right? So you can actually make it a lot better. I don't know if you've done, you have already done
I've done that already, yeah. So it already knows who I am and like all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like one specific business, like you, for example, you create content for a specific audience, that works. If you're doing it for a lot of different things, maybe not as
it's
helpful,
harder.
But like my partner in this project, Jan, he's doing for a lot of different ones. He doesn't put in anything there, but for me, I do, because I have a specific audience, right? Creators, entrepreneurs, and I just put information about myself. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, so 100%. You can use ChatGPT straight the first time, but if you know it, then I just use Notion, because I've been creating content for so long. A lot of the topics I've already done. Remember, nothing new is under the sun, so it's sort of just rehashing those ideas and maybe trying to teach it in a different way or use different analogies, etc. So, but yeah, I'm happy to show some stuff on like Midjourney as well, like coming
absolutely. I was gonna ask, like, I don't know. I mean, you're a designer, obviously, so in your day-to-day, like, do you use, I mean, for YouTube thumbnails and stuff, I guess you design that in Photoshop if you're a designer. A lot of people might use Canva as well. I don't know what kind of what's how you come up with a really cool thumbnail for videos.
Yeah, so for me personally, I use a bit of both. Sometimes I'll just create it from scratch in Photoshop. I can pull up Photoshop, see if I've got an example there, and then other times I'll go to ChatGPT. So for example, if I let me just load up my Instagram real quick, and I'll show an example for thumbnails, for content. So you can see this, how to respond to new clients. As you can see, this one I generated in Midjourney.
Oh, so very cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I just started off with sci-fi graphic designer, talking on the phone, making money, speaking to a person, Cinema 4D render, no background, black background, and then S is for stylized, 500. So I actually do have an AI course on Skillshare and on my website that actually break down all the techniques, to create better images. But the basics.
I'll link up a Skillshare in the description as well. Then they can check it out. I think they have some trial as well, so I'll link that up.
Awesome, so appreciate that, bro.
They can search for Jeremy and check out this course there as well if you're interested.
Thank you, man. But yeah, so the main thing is you want to be very descriptive, and you want to be clear and clearly define what type of style you want. So for example, I put here, I talked about what the concept was. Then I typed in what type of render style. So I put like Cinema 4D, and this will give me sort of these results, which is sort of like realistic 3D type of design, right? And then I put no background, but it did a background anyway. And then I did stylize. Stylize makes it more artistic. It adds more like details into the image. So the
Yeah.
backgrounds and etc. So it basically canceled out my no background response. And then basically
Yeah.
I just refined it by just, what I usually do is I click the version I want, and then it will do another iteration. I'm like, okay, cool. Which one do I like? And then I'll do it again.
Did you upscale it or something afterwards, or was it good enough?
Yeah, I did. So this one, I upscaled it basically.
And
And
how do you
then
usually do that? Do you do that in Midjourney directly, or do you use a different tool?
I actually use Topaz,
Okay.
Topaz Photo AI. It's really
Yeah,
good.
I've seen this tool coming up a lot. I think you promote it as well, but I've seen it like all over. I think they have something for video possibly too now.
Yeah,
I've
they
seen.
actually do. So
Yeah.
it's really good for scaling. So for example, you can see I can scale it up by like 4 times, and then it
Wow.
will,
Very clear.
so you can see pixelated, non-pixelated.
Yep.
And obviously this is an AI generated image, so it works great for photos as well, like photography, like heaps of stuff. So it's really good.
But one thing AI has a hard time to do is like hands and different things. Like, do you tweak that since you're a designer, or like in Photoshop or something like that, or do you make it? Does it come out good for you? What have you seen with this?
Sometimes when faces and hands are still a bit iffy, they're not 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sometimes I'll just like redo the whole image, or yeah, I'll try and find ways to sort of blur it out or mix it out. So yeah, and then you can see I basically take this into Illustrator, which probably most people probably don't use because they're not designers. So if I go to content, carousels, do I have it in here? It might load up. Okay, no, so not that one. So for example, this is how I like my carousels. So you can see all I did was like drop the image there, put a clipping mask, and then I put a black sort of fade out effect, and that's how I got that effect. And then I just do my text in, this is Illustrator, similar to Photoshop, but it's a bit different. And you can see I can create my carousel with text, etc. Really easily, and it's very fast. And then I can just like export all in one go my images.
No,
But
it's
back
really cool. I mean, I would say maybe most creators would use something like Canva if you're not a designer, but like you
yeah,
cannot, I mean, it's not as advanced, but you can do quite a lot. Like, I mean, it's probably good enough for like social media, but certain effects you maybe can't do, like what you're showing, like, but a lot of things you can probably do that is quite similar. You know,
100%.
yeah.
And another cool thing as well is that with Midjourney, you can actually inject certain images, right? So for example, I pulled this image from a Logitech ad. So I'll go Logitech. There was basically a new ad. They launched a new headset and a new like mouse and everything. And so I screenshot, I'm like, okay, this looks pretty cool. And then basically, you can copy any image address. So you would upload it, for example. Let's do an example here. Let me see if I got an image somewhere here. So for example, let's do this image. I'm going to drag and drop it in. I'll press enter. Okay. This is like a poster I think I did in Midjourney as well. And so then what I can do is you can go copy link. And then so I'm going to go dash imagine. And then we paste link there. And then we can type in, let's type in red Porsche flying down a freeway. I'll go chaos, and then chaos basically varies the 4 initial images. So I can maybe do 25. I'll do dash S stylize, maybe 250. So that will do that. And then AR 16:9. Report down freeway, beach, vibrant. And then, okay, and we just do that and see what we get. And so basically you can just go on a site like Dribble, right?
Yeah, Dribble is great for design inspiration for sure.
100%. I'll go to Dribble, type in something like, say, 3D, okay? And then maybe I like this ball, or I try and like find a 3D object. That's an animation.
Can you also, just a question regarding this, can you also like take an old, let's say you have an old photo, I think this is possible, right? Or maybe it's a little complicated, but like, can you take an old photo of yourself or something like and tell them to recreate something, you know, the AI, Midjourney, create something, you know, like on brand for you, maybe like an AI photo of you or something like from before, make it realistic, right? Maybe they can recreate some, maybe you have a low quality photo on your phone from before that you really like, but then you can create something in with AI. Have you tried that?
Good question. I don't think I've tried that yet. I've obviously tried making. I've done myself trying to put me in like a, um, what do you call it? Like a anime style.
Yeah.
So you can
Maybe
do that
that's with
definitely.
what tools do you use for that? Like to put yourself, is that
You,
with Midjourney or other
yeah,
tools?
Midjourney, you can do it 100%. So basically, let's find. So for example, I'll go to brand photos. I'll get like an old photo or something of me.
Yep.
Oh, actually, those images are all big, I think. Um, like I just chuck an image. And so you can see also what we did before. You can see when you basically copy any image, it basically uses that image as a reference point.
Hmm.
So you can see when I typed in red Porsche driving down freeway beach vibrant, this is the results I got. So based on this one, this one's like a Ford, and then it made a Porsche. There's a beach, there's a freeway.
And
So
when it comes to prompting on Midjourney, like what have you found working, what's not working that well, or is it just like trial and error usually for you?
you need to know how to prompt. It's something called prompt crafting. Like
Yeah.
I've experimented, so I know what works. But you can do something called multi-prompting, where you do two separate concepts, and so
Mm.
you get different results. Anyway, so for example,
Very
we
good.
use this, and then I can go imagine. I'll paste that link, right? So it's going to use that as a reference point, and then what I could do, I'll show you this really cool resource. Just give me a sec. Um, So I've basically got this cheat sheet that I have. It's part of my course as well. And there is a link. Where is it? Yeah, this one. So someone basically curated a whole list of reference images. Okay, and I'm going to show you how
Ah.
to create basically any style you want. So we've got it's a basically Excel spreadsheet with different images. We've got landscapes, characters. What's something you want to make? For example, do you like a certain style or something like that?
Of you mean of with you as a person, like we take
Yeah,
your
yeah.
image. Okay, yeah, maybe you on let's say you're in a big city, New York or something like that. Is that possible to make something like that? Like to
Yep,
look
yep,
over
100%.
maybe Brooklyn Bridge or something like that, just to give some context.
Yep, Brooklyn Bridge. All right, perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a style that I like. So, we could do, let's try Vincent van Gogh, right? Or I could do like anime. No, actually, I won't do anime style.
Do you
Um,
usually take like a style of an artist, like a painter or artist, and specific, or do you combine styles sometimes when you do things? Well, what have you found? What is like the ethical way to do it as well? Because that
ethical, I don't think
yeah, I
there's,
mean, because
well,
I what I've heard is that you don't actually own the images generate. You need to like customize something in post. Like you need to do something more. If an image is generated in Midjourney, it's
yeah.
basically public domain. Anyone could use that. But if you then do something else in Photoshop or whatever, then it's yours. Basically, you own it. So I think
Hmm.
that is the difference. I'm sure you as a designer, you might do that. So you don't just take it from Midjourney directly and post it. So it's
Hmm.
like, but people who just use something from Midjourney directly, they actually don't own this. Anyone could use it anywhere, basically. So that's kind of how I understood it from different experts in the field.
Of course, yeah, 100%. Whenever it comes to copyright and like intellectual property, obviously, like, yeah, they use images from the internet. So what you
Yeah.
want to try and do is like add your own flavor or filter or create a concept that doesn't look exactly like the same style. Like, you know what I mean? So for me, I usually try and just come up with interesting concepts, or as I say, iterate a lot until I come up with something that's a bit different. Or change the colors or manipulate it in Photoshop, like add a blur, add a grain, etc. Um,
Yeah,
so I'll use this
totally.
style, painting in the style of Van Gogh. Let's say city of New York in the background, Brooklyn Bridge. And then I'll go dramatic lighting, painting in the style of Brooklyn Bridge, dramatic lighting. And then I'll go 16 by 9. We'll go stylize, maybe 200.
Because that's the you adding like the parameter. What do we call it? The
Yeah, the
parameters, right?
parameters, correct.
Yeah. So what do you usually like tweak things? Like you can add different things there, right? So can you explain
Of
that
course.
for a beginner so people understand it?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at this page right here, you can see there's advanced commands. So we've got raw style, so I can make something look photorealistic. You can also, chaos basically adds the initial 4 images, makes them all very different from each other. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Stylize focuses more on like style, shape, form. It's more artistic, adding details. You can also do weird. Weird makes concepts uncommon, so it meshes concepts together. You've got multi-prompt as well, so you can do 2 separate concepts. You can also do dash no, which cuts things out, and you can also tile, which does patterns. So typically, I'm just using all these. It seems complicated, but it's actually not. And then what you want to do is you want to add materials, right? You want to add render types. So I can add different renderings. You can do lighting styles. So, is it moonlit? Is it daylight, volumetric lighting, room lighting, etc.? All these things make a difference. So I'll just hit enter there and see what it comes up with. But yeah, hopefully that's all making sense. Like, it's all about playing around, and once you get the hang of it, it's really fun to play around with.
No, but this is really valuable to show behind the scenes a little bit how you're actually doing it. That's what I love this stuff myself when I see like how other creators are using the tools. So I think this is valuable for others watching this as well.
Cool.
Now
so you might not get my face exactly, but we'll see what happens.
Let's see. It's always funny when
you never know. You never know what you're gonna get sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know. Let's see.
But yeah, that reference sheet that I showed before is very valuable. This like just helps you. You can create cartoon characters and but yeah, you'll never want to copy exactly the same thing as the artist creator. You always want to create things that are like far off from that, like different concepts. And you can even do print media, like you can do advertisements or product shots. I've done stuff with like Xbox controllers. Let me see if I've got let me see if I can. Yeah, you can do like cinematic art as well. I've done stuff like this. Logos, 3D objects. Anyway, so okay, cool. So that's the result.
Yeah, it's pretty artistic.
Yeah, very artistic. It's probably not exactly like Vincent van Gogh, which is fine. But it got the idea of the Brooklyn Bridge. I like this one in the back. It's got sort of like the paints and the colors and the water reflection. So remember, you can use any image, right? And it's going to use that as a reference point. And then you just got to be specific on describe the scene, what you want, the lighting, and then sort of adding those parameters. And we can always adjust and tweak.
What if you would do this photorealistic one? You want to try that? Like how, like to make it like more realistic and just not as artistic, just like maybe how it would look in real life?
Definitely. So what I'll do, I'll copy the image again. We'll paste that, and then I'll go with the parameters. You want to do style raw. So this is what it is. That. We'll do. I'll just put that in there. So but this time I'll do maybe different lighting or something.
Yeah. Some different.
Let's go City of New York. What's that famous park called? Square Park or something?
Central Park, right?
Yeah.
Maybe do you want to do it during sunset or something? Or
yeah, there's what's it called? Golden hour.
Yeah, golden hour, exactly.
Central Park in New York. We'll say birds flying in background. Golden hour lighting.
Maybe some horses, like they have a lot of horses going around there with
I've never been there, so I'm not sure.
I've been like I rode like a what do you call it?
Did you? That's bad.
Yeah, with a horse and stuff like that. It's pretty nice.
Okay, cool. Like I'll have horses walking. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I always see that in movies, like New York, American movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Central Park in New York, birds flying in the background, golden hour lighting, horses walking, style raw. And then I can just we'll do 16 by 9 again. Now I'll just do chaos 30. Let's try that.
Let's see.
Let's see what happens.
But what is important, as we talked about, is like to make it on brand. That's why it's nice to play around a little bit. And also, like, after this is done, maybe you can add potentially a filter, or like you can take it into your editing software of choice, like whether that's Photoshop or Canva or whatever. You can make this maybe a little bit more custom, and then you have a pretty decent image like that. You would probably have to spend quite a bit with a professional designer to do, and you get something that is unique. So that's why this is powerful.
100%, and that's why it's good to invest in those design skills and creative skills, like whatever you are. Obviously, Canva now has like Magic AI as well, so that's even getting better.
It's maybe
so it's
not
exciting to see.
It's getting better actually. I've checked it out a little bit, but maybe there's obviously, if you know what you're doing with certain tools, I think it's maybe you can get a little bit better results with something like Midjourney. But I'm sure Canva will get better, and that's like the democracy. You like making more democratic. Like you can like actually do this a lot better. Like it's easier. You just go into a software, you put in your words. Like with Midjourney, you need Discord and you need different things to set it up. It's a little harder.
100%, definitely. Another few good tools as well that I would recommend is you've got Luna AI and Leonardo AI as well. These ones are pretty good. I've dabbled with them a little bit, but I just still stick with Midjourney. So for someone who's not really into the custom prompting, these ones are more. They got like templates and
okay, nice.
So you can see, select what you want, type what you want, and like it's a bit easier.
Yeah. I'm sure there's gonna be more like that coming out, because obviously, I mean, maybe Midjourney is gonna get easier with time as well. So you don't need to go in. I mean, there's stable diffusion, right? Even more complicated. So
yeah, that's even one step more complicated.
Yeah, that's pretty technical, but yeah, yeah,
100%.
Let's see.
Cool. Okay. So here's the results, man. There's no horses, there's no birds, so you can see it's not 100% accurate every time. But what I have noticed is that, okay, it's definitely like New York Central Park. It's got the top right one has a nice glow with the sun setting a bit, and same as the bottom ones.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's thunder in that one, but hey, you never know.
I mean, you can also like tweak, like, I mean, maybe the first iteration is not 100%, like with I think your face. I mean, that looks more.
Yeah, my face is not me, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, it looks more AI. Could be, I guess, a little more realistic. I think but yeah, it's you might tweak it, so then you can maybe 100%. Get it more accurate. But yeah, that's awesome.
So what I'll do, I'll just very subtle, and I'll also zoom out, and then I'll start working with those versions, tweaking it a bit. And yeah, that's typically what I do, and then I can just bring it into Photoshop, or I'll bring it into Topaz, upscale it, bring it to Photoshop, and then I'll start like manipulating it for what I want, really. So
yeah. And you mentioned as well you're using like what do you use, Adobe Firefly?
No, it's not. It's actually open now. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, it's open now, right? It's good.
Yeah.
I was playing around a little bit before with it. It's nice.
Yeah, so you can like full expand. You've got you can generate. You can just select. It's awesome. And I think in Photoshop Express it's available as well, so you don't actually need to have Photoshop, and you can also do it inside Adobe Firefly as well. So for example, if I say
with the subscription, right? With the Adobe subscription, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can use generative fill. It's like really easy. For example, if I have an image.
And what's like for you, what is your use case? What would you use that in your, as a content creator? What do you use these kind of AI tools in Adobe for?
Usually if I want to get like a funky text effect, I love the text effects with this. And with the images, I don't really use the images. I like using Midjourney because it's more like I have more control, or like I use it for backgrounds. So I love getting like cool backgrounds. But like, for example, for a mock-up, let's say, let's go back to, for example, Adobe Firefly, and I'll say like, rustic wooden background grunge texture, right? I'll type that and I'll change the aspect ratio, widescreen.
And this tool is pretty beginner friendly for anyone can get started. Yeah.
100%,
So,
100%,
so
bro.
well, Photoshop is more advanced, right? And this one is like more like it's an easier way to get started, right? Is that kind of
Yeah,
how?
definitely, definitely, 100%.
Okay, cool.
And the cool thing with Adobe Firefly is images are used from Adobe stock. So it's all licensed. So nothing is really like
Ah,
sort of copyrighted, because
nice.
every photographer and designer who uploaded their images on Adobe stock has basically signed something that says that like it can be used for AI, right?
Okay.
So then, for example, I'll drop in that texture in here. It's probably low res, so I'll just quickly bring it into here. I'll upscale it. We'll go like 4 times upscale. I'll just save it to my downloads folder. Download, save. Super fast. Then I'll go to downloads, drop in my image, and I can scale it up, for example. Scale it up. And then I can like add multiply or something, add a like an overlay. Let's go. Yeah, let's go overlay, and then I can bring it to like the background. Then I'll just and so just like that. That's how I'll typically use it, like with textures and stuff.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
it's
this
trying to
is
do the
cool.
generative feel, but you get what I'm trying to do. Like, you know.
Yeah, and you can
Uh,
tweak it, right? Also, another use case I've seen both in like the Photoshop AI and yeah, I've seen some YouTube videos, or you can even design a set, right? Maybe you have a boring background or something like that for a video, and then you can actually put in like a plant, or you can add like a shelf or a light or whatever you want, and then you can have that in the
100%.
background. That is a pretty cool use case, I guess, for this as well. And you can like have that in your
100%.
video. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
100%. We can put like, for example, pot plant.
yeah.
Like, and this is just works for like thumbnails. So for example, maybe like you take a picture of yourself sitting down,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can like do a whole background of your studio, like a whole different studio. Like typically that's something people do. And I've done that before. I think it's really fun. Um,
Yeah.
you can put hands, or if you're like doing a thumbnail with like money flying, you can just type money. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
it's maybe a faster way to do it, and you can tweak it. Like that is a really cool way of using it, actually. So there's so many use cases for this. Like, I mean, I love it.
100%.
It's
100%, man. And
awesome.
then you can like, manipulate it, and yeah, there's so many things. So those are the main like
Would you use that like in Firefly, or usually with Photoshop AI? Like, I mean, I guess you have more control. What is kind of the difference? What would you use like the Firefly for, and what would you use Photoshop AI for?
there's honestly no difference. The only difference is that when you're in Adobe Firefly, you can
Hmm.
just type text to image like without making a selection, whereas in Photoshop you have to like make a selection. Like I'd have to like make a whole thing
Oh,
um
okay.
and
You
then
need to
type
like
out.
drag. You need to drag in the image, right, first, because you need to have an image, and then you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Whereas um
Firefly works a little bit like Midjourney, like, but you not maybe not as advanced, but you can like then type in whatever you want, and you get the
yeah,
image
it's
there.
just easy to get started, but I use generative
Mhm.
field typically in Photoshop because I know what I want, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just like
and you can do
but
maybe the rest. So that's
yeah.
awesome. Man, there was a really really good breakdown of kind of how you're using different AI tools. Man. I love it.
Seems like a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, we have basically gone through your entire strategy. I mean, you also mentioned like in that you use it for email writing and stuff like that. Is that some? Do you write emails to your audience typically, or is that just in your day to day, like as a for client work or whatever?
Yeah, definitely 100%. I use it for content, client work. Let me see, back to ChatGPT. I'll see if I've got an example.
Yeah.
Um, mm, like another good one is like, here, my target audience are young designers. Give me a list of my target audience 50 biggest pain points.
Ah,
Simple,
okay.
simple prompt, but look, I just got all these pain points. So now I've got 50 ideas I can create for content. And then I'll like, I can get ChatGPT to write me just like a baseline draft, and then I'll tweak it. But that's another. It's good for research.
Yeah.
Um,
I use it
I
for
did a
subject lines. Like maybe I have an idea. I mean, I have also a swipe. I always keep like a swipe file based on what other people are
yes,
doing in my industry or outside. But then
yep,
I also can ask ChatGPT to come up with similar subject lines in this way, and then
hmm
typically it does a pretty good job doing that. And
hmm
same with like blog post titles and stuff like that. So I think that is a great use case, and it's an easy way to get started because if you can have it like write full blog posts and stuff like that, but
hmm
typically you would have to tweak a lot. Like it's not gonna like
correct.
make you an SEO master or like a you're not gonna. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
exactly.
people saying you can create like faceless YouTube channel just using ChatGPT
Uh,
and some tools, but yeah,
mm,
it can work to some extent, but like not the best quality in most cases. So I
yep,
would
I
say
agree
use
with you on that.
I like using AI as an assistant. That's kind of how I use it a lot of
Correct.
times. And yeah,
Definitely.
I think these tools are the ones that people are using it this way. They're gonna stand out as well. So yeah,
Definitely, man. I agree with you 100% on that. And just, yeah, quick example of based like on
yeah,
the email thing. So, for example, I'm launching another a community. I've done it 2 years ago, but this is a new community for like, young designers that are just starting out. So, for example, like I wrote out, hey, I'm coming up with ideas, create some names. It's going to be a private Discord group, etc.
nice.
And I got it to create some ideas for a Discord channel.
It's like the names for it, right?
Yeah, names and offering what I could offer in this coaching community
Hmm.
thing. Um, and then recently I did, okay, I'm writing an introductory email, right, to designers that sign up for the early bird launch of Epic Designer. So I got the name and then write a 250-word email that is exciting, includes the benefits of joining a community like this. Emphasis using emotional language. And then it gives me an email, as you can see here. Hey, the Epic Designer, we're stoked to have you. What's in it for you? You got this, 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 and then I had to tweak it. And so if I quickly go to Flowdesk, my email provider, real quick. So it was a short email, as you can see there. But what I
Yeah.
did, I went into my emails, went to go into my workflows. And then I'll go in here, click edit real quick. And then all I do is basically just copy and paste this text. Sometimes I'll bring it into Notion or just go straight into Flowdesk. I'll just paste it in and start editing. And you can see this is like my final result. So I changed a lot of the text, but the gist of the stuff is there. So it's here's this for, what's in it for you. And because it's pre-launch, I'm still figuring things out. Like it's just a
Yeah.
simple email, like just to introduce them,
Yeah. I mean, it
And yeah,
saves a
and
lot of time to do it this way. And also, I mean,
of
I
course,
use it a lot for this as well. And then I mean, I still add my touches to it, but
yeah,
yeah, it's just speeds up the process in the content creation for
yep,
anything you want to do. So,
yeah,
and yeah, just a few tools there. So awesome, man. Like this has been great.
thanks, man.
Do you have any? I mean, I guess we can stop the sharing, but because
No
maybe
worries.
or we can wrap this up. But do you have any final words for people who's getting started as a content creator and leveraging now in the new age of AI?
Yeah, 100%. Don't be scared of AI because the people who leverage it, those are the people that are going to, attract the clients and create results. Because I've seen a lot of people, especially in the creative industry, like I've seen people like full hating on AI, and like, especially in the art community, they're just like, oh, it's stealing, etc., etc. But in reality, a lot of ideas and things have been stolen from ancient books in the past. This from, Socrates or the Greek philosophers and ancient Rome and stuff. So everything is just a calibration or a changing, a shifting, a transformation. So don't be scared to use AI for your business because the people who do, they're going to be working faster than you. They're going to be working smarter than you, and then they're going to be able to work better on their business and be more efficient. So embrace it, use it, find a few apps that you love to use that are easy to use, and stick with it for the long run. And if you do that, you're gonna have such more of an advantage over every other content creator that's not using it. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's this famous quote, right? Create like you will not be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by someone using AI or
yep,
like leveraging the right way. And what we've talked a
exactly.
lot about here today. So yeah, I mean, be sure to. And where can people connect more with you? I think it's your website, right?
Mhm.
JeremyMura.com, right? Yeah.
Yeah, jeremymura.com. You can also find me on YouTube and Instagram at the Jeremy Mura. I'm also on Twitter. And yeah, just I'm everywhere
Yeah.
basically, but feel free to DM me, say hi if you have any questions. Happy to connect, and yeah, love connecting with other creatives and content creators. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you found this valuable, be sure to leave your biggest takeaway below here as well, and subscribe to the channel for more. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Ciao for now.